Hi, I'm Ani Ganel, and my firm, OGAdvisors, assists life science companies with fundraising, licensing, and partnering transactions. Not many people can get a drug all the way to market. A modest phase 3 study can cost north of $100 million. So the default is to partner with a larger player, established pharmaceutical company. One of the first questions on anyone's mind that is developing a therapeutic asset is how much is it worth? And how much could they get for it? Now, there are several templates and spreadsheets online. Some are complicated and you have to pay for. Some are basic and available for download. But I couldn't find one that illustrates the relationship between the licensee and the licensor. So I created one. The asset valuation tool quickly provides a ballpark of what the asset could be worth and runs scenarios of licensing deals. It provides a common framework for the licensor, the startup or an academic institution, and the licensee, the development partner, the established pharma, to visualize the different scenarios and value points. Let's take it for a drive. We start in the OGAdvisors homepage and click on Member Tools, and then enter the password, and then see the model. The way that the model works there are inputs regarding the market and the asset, license terms. I'll remove those. We can get to them in a moment. And some assumptions and the output window. The model is what's known as a risk-adjusted NPV model, meaning that we take the overall opportunity, which is calculated as the value of the discounted cash flows or the net present value of the entire cash flows on an annual basis, and multiplying by the chances of success of the molecule. So for example, a preclinical molecule has about a 5% chance of making it to commercial. And so we'll take the entire opportunity and multiply it by 5% to get to the risk-adjusted NPV. The first thing that we want to hit is the patient population. Let's say we think that there's about 200,000 patients that can fit. Let's look at the population itself. Let's say that about 10% Medicaid, about 30% Medicare, and the rest is commercial. This is important because pricing in the pharma world works by the rebates that different insurers negotiate with the pharmaceutical company or with entities related to pricing. And so let's say that you estimate based on comparables that your drug will cost $500 on a weekly basis. It's safe to assume that a commercial insurer may pay only 90%, but a Medicare retiree may pay only 50% for this drug. And that's, if you don't know how to put, then just leave those numbers as is. Next is to look at the asset features. Where are you in your development? Are you ending your preclinical and getting ready for IND? Do you have an IND in hand and you are already working on, excuse me, I'm just going to delete this. And are you already working on starting your phase 1, or are you already in phase 2? That really determines the overall chances of success, because a phase 2 drug has a lot higher likelihood of making it all the way to market than a preclinical, for example. Next is a therapeutic area. You should choose which therapeutic area you are in general or the closest you have. And that's because different indications have different R&D costs. Cancer costs a lot more than dermatology, for example. And it would take, those costs need to be factored in when we calculate the overall value. We also need to think of what market share you think you'll capture. Let's say you think that you're first to market and there's going to be 2 or 3 other players. You'll still probably, as a first to market, you'll capture 50% of the market. But if you think you're coming out and there's maybe 2 other players, maybe you'll capture only 30% of the market. That makes a difference. And the last thing that you need to think about is when was your license granted? And that's because we need to calculate the patent revenue cliffs. The way that it works is that pharmaceutical companies know that once the patent expires, they should expect, if it's a small molecule, up to 95% of the revenues to go away. And even for large molecules, for generics, it could be a fairly dramatic revenue cliff there. And so we need, if we are now in 2023 and we are now, let's say, in a just starting our phase 1, then we can assume that we'll have 8 years of development, or maybe more, and we will have probably a few years of commercial exclusivity at the margins and the price that we want before the patent cliff comes. And so the licensed patent year is really important. Once you've put these together, you can already see the opportunity as it pertains to the overall value of the asset, meaning the overall opportunity, assuming no risk, and then because it's a preclinical asset or just starting, what is the risk-adjusted value of the entire asset? So now we have the entire value of the asset calculated, but what does it mean for me as the licensor that wants to license this out to an established pharmaceutical company to continue development? Right now, all of the value lies in the asset, but none to me. So here is where we put in, and we have a lot of creativity in putting the license terms together. A good rule of thumb is that the licensor and the licensee should share the overall opportunity to the tune of about 80% to 20%. And so one scenario could be that you'll want $1 million in advance. You'd want royalties of 5% once the asset becomes commercial. And since you're already in phase 1, you'd like that once we start phase 2, you'd like another $1 million as what's known as biobucks. And then once we start phase 3, you'll want, let's say, 10. In this case, the licensor gets only 10% of the value, while the licensee gets 90%. My rule of thumb is let's try to push for 20%. So in this case, you say, okay, well, in this case, let me put in that I'd want a $20 million milestone upon NDA. And I think that my royalties should be, let's say, 7.5%. And I'd also like some kind of a sales milestone in the first year of another 5 million. Because this is in the later years, there's still a high likelihood of failure, and so you'll see that this has not changed at all. While changing the upfront payment, for example, from 1 million to 2 million can have a much more dramatic effect. In this case, let's put it as 5 million. And let's do another. Now we are getting closer to that 20/80 rule that I'd like to start negotiations from. So by doing these creative constructions and by understanding your partner, is this a partner that prefers a high upfront but lower royalties, or maybe higher royalties but lower upfront? You can get to a very defensible, thoughtful mechanism of deal terms. So please play with this tool. Tell me what you think. Love to hear your input if you find it useful.